Come on. Here.
Hello and welcome to the second Friday edition of Open Forum for Microsoft Teams and what is formerly known as O365. Microsoft just went through a rebranding and now it's just called Microsoft 365 as opposed to Microsoft O365. So anyway, welcome to the Q&A session for Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365. I will be presenting along with our CTO, Gerald Howland. Thanks for joining us, Gerald. And Stephanie Kingsland is producing behind the scenes. One of the things that I will recommend that we're going to cover some of the items that we hit on earlier this week in previous session. We'll touch on forms and some stream and training and in Teams and how those things work together, pending Q&A coming through. So we'll dig into some of those variables. So I'd encourage everyone right now to please go ahead and start adding questions into the Q&A for really any. It doesn't have to be around forms or stream or Teams, just anything Office 365 related is really what we're trying to cover. So before we dig in, I wanted to plant that seed right now, but before we dig in, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about MyTech, just so you know, in case you don't know who we are, what we do. We are a small and medium business computer and IT services technology consulting company. Over the last 20 years of being in business, we've learned a little bit about what technology works well together, and we've defined what we call a proven IT strategy that in collaboration with our clients we know can achieve consistent results for them. So again, we recognize that not all problems that you as an organization have are IT related. So we just hope to be able to take those IT ones off your plate so that you can focus on your highest and best use of your time, or HABU as I like to call it, highest and best use. You've got plenty of other things that you can be working on and being dynamic and adapting to the world around us. We just hope to take the IT piece off of your plate there. We also strive to make IT easy. You know, we coach our team that we want to try and make IT easy for you, our client. It doesn't always make it easy for us, but that's okay. Our goal is to help you and hopefully give you a great experience. We don't always achieve that either, and so we do encourage our clients, if we ever feel like we fell short of that mark, let us know. It's our opportunity to coach and learn, so thanks in advance for that. Finally, in collaboration with this proven IT strategy and making sure we're aligned to our clients' business needs, we know that our clients can achieve 4 times more value and productivity from their IT investments. So if you'd like to learn more about that, by all means, please give us a shout. We'd love to have an opportunity to connect with you. But otherwise, let's dig in. So one of the things I'd like to start with before we open it up to the Q&A is that so we've been hosting these Q&A sessions every Friday since basically going into the shelter at home at the end of March, middle to end of March. We really wanted to open it up so that team members could just ask questions because as we are going to be working from home, we're probably going to be challenged in ways that we haven't been challenged before, and we wanted to just create a forum where we could ask those questions. So where we've evolved and with feedback, we've done 2 things. One, the first Friday of the month, we are going to be hosting, so last Friday is our first one that we did. We hosted a power users, really peer group. So we encourage, there's usually 1 to 3 people in the organization that are really have their hands around the team structure and SharePoint, where we want to help you have your hands around that, where you can be the authorizer of the creation of a team and understanding the nuances of what happens when you're creating a team or creating a SharePoint site, etc., and hopefully helping your organization execute these methods consistently. So that's the first Friday of the month. The second Friday of the month is we want to have, so second Friday, team members Q&A. So we want to encourage any of our clients and potential clients or community members that if you just have anybody on your team that has a question, so basically the same thing we're doing today is just kind of an open forum, but moving forward, we're really going to focus just on the second Friday of the month and for team members that aren't the power users, aren't the IT admins, but the ones that are just using the tools day to day to do their job. We want to help you in particular. So the second Friday is going to change to that. but with the same kind of content or same purpose of, showing you how to, really giving you some practical dealing with use cases and real solving business problems. So with that said, I just want to give a heads up that we're going to be moving that. So there's not an open forum next Friday. The next open forums we're going to have the first Friday in June is going to be power users. The second Friday in June is going to be specifically for team members. So stay tuned for that. And now I'd like to open it up for any questions if there's any in the Q&A panel, Stephanie.
Yeah, there is. First one is, we are new to Teams SharePoint, having rolled it out as a result of the pandemic. Okay. We are starting to use Teams and channels more and are finding that we have some channels that are misplaced. Is there a way to move a channel from one team or work group to another?
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm pretty darn sure the answer is no. Gerald, can you confirm that?
Yeah, you are correct on that. Unfortunately, there is no way to move a channel or a team, and the only thing that you can really do is move the documents in the background. But like even the conversations or messages that are stored inside there, you really can't move that between teams at all.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, but don't fret, because while I understand you might lose some history, you can move all the documents because those are on the SharePoint site. You can move those. And the other thing I would say is you're not alone. Even as MyTech, we've really been digging into Teams for the last couple years. And we've been hosting training sessions every month, sometimes multiple times a month, for the last couple of years. And we are in the process of somewhat overhauling our Teams environment based on 2 years ago. There's different capabilities of Teams and channels than what exists today, and we've learned more over the last couple of years. So we're actually changing some significant parts of how we use Teams and SharePoint together based on what we've learned. So my point is, that's okay. Be aware of it. So try and be as intentional as possible. And that's actually one of the reasons why we're hosting the power user group, is because we want to try and impart just some structure and design and forethought into why you'd want to choose different pieces and structures, because we want those people to really help mitigate the risk of maybe misplacing a channel, for example. But I doubt we're ever going to prevent anyone from ever misplacing a channel in their Teams environment. So it's okay. But yeah, that's also why we really want to help the power users in particular, help organization, department heads, leads, etc., think through creating teams and channels. Good question. And sorry, the answer is no.
I'm getting some clarifying questions on the next one. So if there's something you want to show.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. So as we open it up, one of the things that I really like to illustrate, again, starting with office.com, just as a place that's the place for all the applications to access. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday was Stream. So I'm actually going to click into Stream. I opened the Stream up because we did touch on it. And one of the things that I will illustrate that kind of relates to the channel question is that if you go to my content, and if you click on, you see the different groups and channels, one of the things, there's some vernacular that I'm a little, and Gerald, you're probably rolling your eyes at that. I would be if I were you right now, that Teams, the groups here, I'm going to click on groups, and what you'll see is that groups aligns to the team structure. So if I go over here to Teams, you see the all MTP365, the marketing team, the sales team, the operations team. So when you click on Stream, you see those same ones, the marketing team, operations, sales, but Stream calls it groups instead of teams. So on one hand, I kind of get that, but on the other hand, it's a little bit of a misnomer. So it's a good thing to be aware of. The other thing that's a little weird that I don't know, I think yesterday I described it as annoying, is that so Teams also calls these subgroups channels, right? So you have the team and then you have the channel. Well, in Stream, channels are completely independent of the channels in Teams. Now, when you're creating, so for instance, these are different channels. This channel is a subset of the all company team. This channel is a subset of the sales team. But when I create a channel, it doesn't necessarily create associated channel in Teams, and when I create a channel in Teams, it doesn't create an associated channel in Stream. So it's a little bit weird that they call in Stream channels the same thing as they call it in Teams, but it's different. And then they call groups, which map to Teams, groups instead of teams. So it's one of the little things that I found as I was digging in and presenting the content yesterday that I thought was a little weird. But if the more you dig into Stream, it's important to just think to understand and have that denoted. So, Gerald, any comments on that or any thoughts?
Yeah, so you're actually going to see that in a couple of little areas. Like Outlook is another very similar function of that. Is Outlook's interfaces into the Teams and Stream and all that kind of stuff is also called an Outlook group, which there's 3 or 4 different places that Outlook groups are called groups. But yeah, that's and part of this comes from the design of the background of the system. Even a team is based upon a O365 group, which is why in Stream you kind of see that term as groups instead of as teams. But yes, that's it's kind of a yeah, it's a very weird function. And I think this is to kind of go on to one of the questions that that came in about what is a use case for Stream. Is Stream really is the YouTube of your organization.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where that channels term comes in, is that channels kind of comes from the YouTube side of things, where you have YouTube channels, or even back to the idea of TV channels.
Yep.
So yes, it's just confusing when you have teams and channels and groups and channels that are not the same.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And, where it does align is that, is that when you record in Teams. So for instance, I think I did a recording here in the general channel yesterday. So I just did a quick meeting where I came down here and I just did a meet now. And then I did a recording, and it shows the recording right here. And then this is actually saved into the all company, the all MTP 365 group. So if I go out here to Stream, and if I go into groups and I click on the all MTP 365 group here, you'll notice that that video should be right here. I think this is the one that I recorded yesterday. So yeah, so next, any questions, Stephanie, coming from the Q&A panel?
There isn't, besides the one Gerald said, just looking for a use case for Streams. So
yeah, so if really the longer answer to that question is, we have a recording that we did yesterday. It really walks you through several use cases around, if you're recording, so for instance, if you have an all company meeting and you're trying to make sure that everyone in the organization is able to see that. Well, how often do you have an all company meeting and at least one person is missing, right? I know we had one this morning for our company, and we had a couple people on PTO, a couple people that were busy engaging with clients, and so they weren't able to attend, but we recorded it so that they can watch it after the fact. The other one, as it relates into Teams that I really like, is creating a training channel. Like you actually can call it a training channel, and you can hold meetings in the channel, and then it basically creates a repository of training when you can just hold them and record them that way. I also liked how in the sales team, as an example, we didn't create a training channel like we did here in the sales team. It's just the general, but what we did is we did a training tab. So we actually added a tab by clicking here and adding Stream to the equation, and that basically, and we linked it to a sales training channel in Stream, and now it'll show any videos that we have that are training videos for the team, or that we've added to that channel. So there's a couple different ways to do it, but definitely just capturing things so that people don't miss department meetings that someone might be missing, trainings that people either miss or that you want to make sure to capture it for future use. There's some great uses for Stream, but you can also use third-party videos too. Like, so for instance, I actually recorded this one with a third-party video and I just uploaded it. So any MP4 you can upload into Stream and then assign it to a respective channel. So some cool stuff you can do with Stream, but again, Gerald probably gave the best explanation. Is it's really an internal YouTube channel for you. So that way you can keep, you can post and secure the videos so that only the people in the organization associated with the respective groups, the organizational groups and the team groups, can see the videos that you want. So a little overview there. So one of the other things, and Stephanie, just chime in if there's a question that pops up, but one of the other things I liked about how Stream and Forms and Teams work together is that if you go to Microsoft Forms again, so I'm just going to show you, I clicked on office.com and I just went to Forms. So I just clicked on that. It opened up this browser here. And you have My Forms you can create shared with you, or group forms. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to show group forms, because you can, and when you look at this, you can actually click, when you click here, it gives you the option of choosing a group. So if you want to create a form that you want only the people, members of a respective group to have access, then basically you click on group forms and you choose the respective group here. So I'm going to click on sales team because I know like it tells you how many forms exist. And I created a form here yesterday that was for a quiz. And so this form here is actually embedded into one of the training videos. So at the end of the video, it prompts the person that took the video to answer these questions. Again, I made them really simple questions like, did you watch the video? The correct answer is yes. So that's the quiz. How informative was the video? And hey, which website was highlighted? Again, just to make it simple, but you can basically create these quizzes and then you can embed them in the video. So I'll give you an example. As I go over here to Stream, I'm going to go to My Content, click on Groups, actually Channels, excuse me, I'm going to go to Channels, because this was in the Sales channel. So I'm going to click on the Sales channel. And this video here, I'm actually going to click on it. I think I just click on it here. Yes. So I'm not going to let it play. So I'm going to hit pause really quick. But when you have the video popped up, notice there's this little interactivity. It first of all, I didn't record this in Teams or Stream, but it automatically transcribed the recording, which is nice. And then on the interactivity part, it allows me to add a form. So this is that form that I applied. So I click on that, it'll pop it up in here. And so that same form that we just went through over here in Forms, I'm just going to click over. So this form, you're going to see here popped up. So it's kind of cool that you can integrate forms, and that's one of the ways that you could either validate that people watched the video, did they get the right knowledge out of the video, and you can also embed multiple ones because you can choose when to add the form. So for instance, if you paste the form here, so you just copy and paste it, and then you can choose where in the video you want that form to pop up. So if you want it to do at the beginning, the middle, some other area, or the end, you can choose that time, and you can have multiple different Q&A or quizzes pop up in the middle of that. And then of course, just to go back, you just continue the video. So some cool capabilities. That's an integration between, you can have this embedded in Teams, and you can integrate a Microsoft form into your Stream videos. So kind of a cool integration between those three tools. Any questions prompted yet, Stephanie?
Yeah, this one, basically this individual is talking a lot about the education sector, but they're asking, with the A3 license, do you get desktop Office applications? They're saying, I know online Office is terrible when it comes to editing.
Sure.
Do you get open in desktop option in E3 when you have subscribed for education A3?
I'm not sure. Gerald, do you know the answer to that question? I don't have like the matrix of licensing in front of me for that, but I do know that if A3 maps to E3, then you should also get the desktop version. You know, an example, and I'm sure you probably know this, but just to illustrate it, is that, for instance, I came in here to our files because this is where I actually have been just storing the different PowerPoints. And so, for instance, if I just click on these, in fact, I'm gonna just click on this one right here, click on the little breadcrumbs here, and it gives me the chance of selecting where I want to open it. So I can open it in PowerPoint Online or in PowerPoint, or by default, it'll open it up right in Teams. So what you're saying is that by default, when you open it up, the browser version is kind of a poor editor. I would agree. They've done a good job on some of them to make them better, but in general, I definitely recommend opening up in the desktop app, which you could be able to do here. That's an option that you get when it opens up in the browser. And the A3 license, I believe, if it maps to E3, does include the desktop licensing. Gerald, can you confirm? Do you have a chance to look that up and confirm?
Yeah, I'm just finishing this up, but one of the things I think is the big thing is A3 is really designed for faculty. So faculty would get the copy of the Office product, but it does not extend down to the students. So educational licenses are done a little bit different,
Sure.
in the way that they're done, because it's you kind of license based upon the educator, not the student.
Yeah.
So that's so I know that extends into the educator side, but I do not believe that extends to the student side. So it kind of depends on what the need is going to be. I'd have to get some clarifying answers and really kind of dig into the question a little bit deeper, but yeah, that's what I know of, at least.
All right, I appreciate that. I've got something queued up to go next, Stephanie, but unless there's a question.
Nope, there's not a question at this time.
Okay, so the one thing that I do like to call out, I'll go into Teams again, and if you're not familiar with private channels, there is a difference that I found in private channels. In fact, I'm attending this meeting in this instance of Teams. So I'm going to actually open up a browser instance of Teams here that's using the Edge Chromium browser. So I'll give you an example. But so the private channels here, one of the things, and I'll show you an illustration. So I'm going to start a meeting here in the general channel, which I can come down here and hit Meet Now. And again, I'm just going to title it, test, recording. And I'm gonna hit Meet Now. And once that starts, when you go to the breadcrumbs, it gives you the option to start recording, right? So I can start recording, and then it'll pop up here, hey, this is now being recorded. So I can dismiss that for the sake of this conversation and for the sake of the recording. I'm not actually gonna present anything, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hang up. In a private channel, what I've found, so that's in a public channel or just a general channel that's under the operations team. But you can, in a private channel here, notice the little lock icon next to those. What I found is I'm going to notice I can do a Meet Now again. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do test recording 2. Hit Meet Now. And from what I understand, I'm hoping this is right, unless it changed in the last 24 hours, is clicking on the ellipse here, it does not give me the option to record. So I am not able to record a conversation or a meeting that's been held in a private channel. Unless, Gerald, that's some security setting, I believe that's a default, and that's something that, because of the nature and the structure of private channels, you're not able to record. So that's not even an option here. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up again by illustration. But when it relates to stream, as we were just talking about, like when I'm in the general channel or in a channel, notice it says recording has stopped, saving recording to Microsoft Stream. So that's what I want. But I can't do that in a private channel. So that's just an interesting idiosyncrasy at the moment. Again, that Microsoft might change that any day. But at the moment, that's just an idiosyncrasy of how private channels and stream work together versus regular channels.
Yeah, Nate, you are correct on that. It actually comes down to the security side of things. So in order to record that meeting, you need to be able to have the appropriate security controls in play, and that's all controlled through groups. And private channels do not have groups associated with them. So they kind of come off of the parent, but they don't have any subsequent security structures based upon it. So that's part of the reason why that's happening.
Yeah, so one of the ways, so then the question might be, well, how do I hold a private meeting with only the people that I want, maybe the same people that are part of that private channel, and record it? Well, the way you can do that is you can just come into Outlook and just do new Teams meeting, and you can use this link, but just only invite the people that you want. So And that would allow just the people that you've invited, basically. Well, anyone that gets the link would be able to join, but that would allow you to record that, and then just those people that attended would have access to it, and you could then move that recording, you know, into the files or something like that, or you could, you know, you could create a link in Stream, because that would be in your videos. There's things you could do if you wanted to hold a private meeting and record it, but that's just something that I found out through digging into Stream, and thought it's another thing worth calling out to make you aware.
I do have a question here, Nate. So I'm going to read it. It's a longer one. I invited several guests to a team yesterday. One of the recipients belongs to his organization's tenant. When he clicked on the Azure AD Get Started email link, it asked for admin approval. You covered part of this in another session a week or two ago. Could you touch on this again? I'm not sure if I have to accept him somewhere in AD. I'm waiting for a screenshot from him to get a better idea of what he's seeing. Also, since his profile is probably connecting to his own tenant, you had shown a drop down to choose the other tenant to connect to.
Yeah, I was just going to show that. So we created a guest access team to illustrate that. And so first and foremost, you have to have the right permissions. So if you invited people externally, you probably have already set those permissions, most likely. But that could be something to look into if he's getting a weird error. But what ends up happening is if as an individual, and Gerald, I'm going to look to you for more technical sides of this once I show this part. What happens when you already have an existing tenant or account in Teams, and if you have multiple tenants, if I was just part of, this is Microsoft's Contoso, so the demo account that they give us or allow us to use. If I was just part of Contoso, you wouldn't see this drop down that's right here. But because I have this drop down, it basically says, oh, I'm also added as a guest to the MyTech Partners team. And if I click on this, which I will do, and I'll show you, actually, I can't do that. Hold on, I think I can do it in the other tenant. So hold on, because if I did it in this one, it would actually log me out. So I should be able to do it up here. So, so if I click up here and go to MyTech Partners, notice how it's basically, it logs me out of my existing tenant, and it's trying to log me in to the MyTech tenant. And now it's only giving me access. So notice it shows me up here that I'm part of MyTech. It doesn't pull in my image that comes from my primary Active Directory. And it only gives me access to the account to which I'm a part. So that's what they would see on the other side, is that they would have to click this drop down and go into it. It works the same on your mobile as well, by the way, as you get the same kind of drop down, and then you can choose the different tenants. Yeah, this is what they would see from a guest perspective when you add them as a guest. So Gerald, can you dig into any technical things that you were talking about as far, or based on the question of getting an admin approval or something like that?
Yeah, so I do know that there is a, kind of depends upon the scenario, and the screenshot would be key, is actually knowing what message they're getting. But there is a way for an administrator of the tenant that you are inviting in to actually restrict them being members of any other tenants or any other guest membership or controls. So if an organization was really doing some very strong security measurements, they might have that every connection has to be approved. So that might be coming out of it. It's hard to say. I don't know of anything that once you invite somebody that they're going to get another approval coming back. So I would guess that it's probably something where they're getting locked down so that they cannot add, cannot accept that approval unless they get approval from their administrator.
That's what I was wondering. You're not talking about the person from who sent the invite. It might be their internal team that has locked it down to not allow the ability to join another tenant or another guest account.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, that could be. So, and this is one of the things that's also really important as a public service announcement with regard to Teams, and which is also one of the reasons why Teams, you've not seen Teams in the news about security like you've seen some other video conferencing tools, is because Teams by default and Microsoft O365 by default turns off a lot of the external collaboration. They want you to be intentional about turning that on. So it very well could be that, you just need to, and there's all kinds of settings, because Gerald's talked me through them. He's been the one that's configuring them, but Gerald's talked me through all the different settings to be able to allow a guest access, or to be able to do a live event like we're doing here, and allow a public, external folks that are outside of our organization to be able to join. So by default, there's a lot of security lockdowns. And so, yeah, just collaborate on that. If we can help, let us know. We have done that. As you can see, we did that here for the demo tenant on both sides. So MyTech, we had to invite them in, and vice versa. We invited MyTech to our guest tenant here, so we could kind of demonstrate and illustrate the back and forth. So we can help with that. But, and we even did one, we had our event, if anyone's familiar with an annual event that we did in April, that we normally do in April, that got canceled because of the shelter at home, but we used a guest team to be able to collaborate on files and documents between us and a third party that was outside of our organization to execute the event. So actually you had to permission it to be able to not only have access to the team, but also have access to the documents, because we wanted to be able to share documents too. So there's definitely some different layers of permissioning to check into, and let us know if we can help on that front. So any follow-up questions on that, Stephanie, or?
Yeah, he stated that I went through the checklist to set up guest access in Azure AD and Teams. I'll check with other admin. Worked with them in the past, so.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I remember Gerald saying there's so many different settings to get right. And I know that when we were going through just to be able to turn on the live event feature that we're using, Gerald set a setting, and then I could see one thing but not the other thing, and he set another one. So there's a bunch of little granular settings, and it could be on either side. So I appreciate you checking that out. Any other comments before we either move on or adjourn?
I don't see anything else in the panel here.
All right. Well, everyone, I really do appreciate joining us and sticking with us. So if there's anything you took away from today, I definitely recommend, always just try and write them down. Even if you don't implement them right away, sometimes it's just saying, hey, I want to remember to do this thing. So write that down. And if it does make sense, try and take some baby steps in the next couple of days. We'd love to hear from you and how that worked. Stephanie will send out a link to the recording if you feel this is appropriate to forward on to other folks. And again, as a reminder, next week we're actually touching on Power BI and Power Automate. So those are the two sessions next week. And then next Friday, we are not doing an open forum. We're moving that to the first Friday Power User Group. So I'd invite anyone who wants to be a Power user or feels that they should be that, or if you have anyone in your organization, I would recommend inviting them to it. That's more of an open forum where we actually open up the mics and allow people to kind of interact and collaborate more. And then the second Friday is going to be just specifically for team members to be able to invite those folks and help. So those are the events coming up. Please join us if it makes sense for you. But in the meantime, I hope everyone can enjoy this wonderful Mother's Day weekend and stay safe and stay healthy out there.